Hello. So this is another quick video on guarantors. So we've just covered one on student loans and why they aren't bad and why we shouldn't perceive them as debt and we should see them as leverage. And just to recap that is quickly because you don't have to pay it back unless you're earning a certain amount. Whereas with a mortgage, you pay it back each month regardless of what you're earning or what your circumstances. Student loan, currently you have to earn above £25,750 and you'll only pay 9% of your student loan back each month. So, by the way, it's 9% of your salary, not 9% of your student loan. But today I wanted to talk to you about guarantors. Who are they? What are they? Why do we need one? What happens if you can't get one? So guarantors are people that you nominate to pick up any slack in rent, arrears, deposits if you can't afford it or manage it. So say I'm going to go live in Glasgow. Bad example, Newcastle. And I go and apply for student accommodation. It's likely they will ask me for a guarantor. Now you can list anyone, doesn't have to be family, it can be a friend. And what they'll do is they'll do a check on this guarantor to make sure that they can afford your rent and deposit in case you fail on those payments, so that they will still be able to get paid. The whole reason the guarantor is to make sure that the landlord protects the downside. So why do we have them? So landlords have them to protect their downside and still be able to pay their mortgage. But as a student, we don't have much history or credit history when it comes to renting. If you are, say, a 30-year-old person that wants to rent, it's likely that you'll be checked, you'll be referenced. So they will go to your previous landlords and ask how you are as a tenant, how you kept the house, were you good with payments, and they will also credit check you. But as a student, we don't really have a credit history, and we don't really have any previous landlords unless they're our parents. And they aren't going to ask the parents because they're biased. So what they do is they enlist a guarantor to protect themselves. And as a student, it's a good backup in case you can't pay your rent. Obviously, it means that if you can't pay it, they have to pay it. They do have to be UK based, because if not, how are you going to get hold of them? They also abide by the same legislation, and it's contractual. So when a guarantor signs the agreement, they are signing it and they have to abide by it. Why do they ask? Again, because they want the rent. What happens if you can't get one? Now, there's quite a few options out there for you if you can't get a guarantor. One of the big problems is international students. As an international student, it's likely that you won't know anyone in the UK. If you do have friends or family in the UK, you can ask them. That will make your life so much easier. There are some accommodation providers that don't ask for a guarantor, however their rent might be slightly higher. What you can do is you can put a bigger deposit down. Obviously that means a chunk of your money is then held, and it's not held with a landlord or letting agent. A deposit is held in a different scheme, and this is to protect it, because what a lot of landlords and letting agents were doing, were taking that money and then obviously investing it and doing it for other things, and when depositors wanted to be paid back, they didn't have the cash. And they went under, and so they regulate that industry, and that's what they do with it now. You can also offer to pay 6 months up front. Some landlords will take that, some landlords won't. This is all individual, by the way. So you've got high deposit, 6 months up front. You can use a private guarantor organisation or company, so to our Housing Handling UK guarantor. You can enlist them, and what happens is they will act as your guarantor, and then what they will do, they will ask for a co-signature of someone who doesn't need to pass the same rigorous checks to be a guarantor. That co-signature can be a friend, family, anyone. So if you default on your payment and it goes back to Housing Hand, they will pay it, and then they will recoup the costs from the co-signature. So if they aren't eligible for a guarantor, you could be a co-signature through Housing Hand. Now also university sort of schemes out there. Some universities will act as a guarantor for you. Some have schemes where they will pay and offer you. So they'll say to you, right, well, we'll give you an extra set of money so you can pay a higher deposit, or we'll give you 6 months. We'll help you pay for 6 months rent up front. here are our landlords that don't offer a guarantor, and we'll back you on that. They will look at your sort of credit history as much as they can, and they'll look at your education history just to make sure that you aren't going to drop out. Because if they do give you that 6 months rent and then 6 months later you drop out, they've just essentially wasted all that money where they could have given it to someone else. There are lots of other eligible places out there. So, for instance, if you come from a care or a foster home, they have a lot of charities out there that support students going to university and getting an education. I can't list them off the top of my head. However, what I will do is I'll drop a link below, and if you DM me, I will send you the link to them. But it gives you the options, and it shows the university is becoming more and more accessible to everyone, and this is a great thing. The only stepping stone is guarantors. So, just to recap, a guarantor is someone who will back up your rent and deposit payments if you can't do it. Most and nearly all accommodation providers ask for a guarantor, some don't. So if you can't find a guarantor, try and find the accommodation providers that don't ask for a guarantor, offer a larger deposit up front, offer 6 months up front, or rent up front, and that will obviously give them trust, and then make sure that you start saving your next 6 months. There are private organisations out there, Housing Hand and UK Guarantor, which you pay a fee to use. They will be your guarantor, and they will have a co-signature. So if anything goes wrong, Housing Hand will pay it, and then they'll look at your co-signature to pay that back. Universities do have schemes, bursaries and scholarships that you can apply to, and obviously they can help you out. Some of those ways, again, will help you with money to pay a large deposit or 6 months rent up front. You have to go to the accommodation service to ask this. And there is one other option, and that's to live in with the landlord. However, what happens here is it's a lot easier for them to evict you, so you must be a good tenant. They don't have to go to court. They can just say, I do not want you living here anymore. So they can skirt around the legislation, whereas you have a full-on contract and assured short-hold tenancy, they must offer you an eviction and either a Section 8 or a 21, I believe, in order to evict you, and they have to give valid reasons in order to evict you, which the main one is debt and arrears. Hope this has been useful. I'll post some links below. Take a look. If you get any questions, let me know. Follow me on Instagram, follow me on Facebook, and you'll see all these type of tips coming through every so often.